Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to tell you if it is worth it to become a speech language pathologist in 2026. So, for those of you who do not know me, hi, my name is Angeline. I am a licensed speech language pathologist. I have been a speech language pathologist since 2021, and I have um, worked in almost all the settings now. I have work in the medical, in acute setting, in inpatient, home health, in skilled nursing facilities. So all over the place since 2021, and I've done travel therapy as well. So I can tell you about that. And I am here to go to kind of reflect and go over like my experience so far and what I think my advice would be to someone who's thinking about becoming a speech language pathologist right now. So this channel, Org Synergy, is focused on providing resources to speech language pathologists. And these kind of lifestyle videos are done unscripted. I only have an outline here so that I don't deviate too much from the plot. Um, and then you'll find other videos for all the US states. I'm coming up, loading the videos now. You will find all of the videos about how to obtain your license in a specific state, how to renew your license, and all the paperwork, the fees, and all of that jazz. So let's get into it. All right. So why am I making this video now? So it's the new year, right? And I know some people, at least that's how I was. It was the beginning of the new year where I was thinking about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study, and whatnot. And I've had people ask me if it's worth it, how do I like it? And they've been hearing a lot of people are leaving the field. If you haven't heard about that, don't worry about it. But basically, just overall, like the pros and cons of being a speech language pathologist and why specifically, you should consider it. So, I will start off overall with the caveat that to become a speech language pathologist, you do not need to have a bachelor's degree in speech language pathology unless you're like 100% positive that is what you want to do. Even then, I would still like advise against it. I would still advise somebody to kind of branch out to explore what they like, especially if linguistics is what interests you. Like I have a bachelor's in linguistics, and I think it was super worth it. Like I delve way more into phonetics, into sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics. Like it kind of like l- it's a whole new world. I feel like speech language pathology is kind of like a subfield application of linguistics, especially in speech and language disorders and communication disorders. So I would advise somebody to kind of like branch out, and it doesn't necessarily to have to be linguistics. It can be, I know some people that did psychology majors, some people that did history, English. So I think that it is not a deal breaker if you do not major in undergrad in speech language pathology, because you can always take leveling courses. There are plenty of graduate school programs where you can take a leveling courses for a semester or two, and then you get into, as long as you do well in those courses. In my program, as long as you did a B or higher and you maintain, I forgot the specific GPA, but you had to maintain a GPA. It wasn't like horrible or something or anything like that. I think maybe it was a 3.5, and then you were automatically admitted into the master's program. So that's why I think that is the better way. That way, if you end up changing your mind, like you leave yourself as much room as possible, as many options as possible, so that you can do something else with the degree and or continue with speech language pathology. And even if you were to continue with speech English pathology, you have like a wider breadth of knowledge. That would just be my advice for that. So, like I was saying, I've been a speech English pathologist since 2021. I have built Org Synergy which is this YouTube channel and an app that I have built to help other speech English pathologists to with their licensing and stuff like that. So, um, I am still in the field somewhat, but I'm building kind of like an exit ramp, if you will. I've been getting more and more into programming, into just doing software that still apply to the field, but I've been into more on the back end side of things. And I still work as PRN. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but basically, to the one positive thing that I would give for the field is the scheduling. So you have from all the different settings. So you can choose to become a speech language pathologist and work in the hospitals or work in the schools so that you're off when the schools are off and you can do something else as like a side hustle or your own business during the summer month, or you can work in home health where you go into people's houses to do therapy, and then you can set your own schedule that way. That has its pros and cons. Mainly you might not always have, people might cancel on you and stuff like that, so your income might not be stable, but you have the flexibility of making your own hours. And then of course you have skilled nursing facilities as well. You have like private schools, you have outpatient. So there are so many different settings that you can work in that it makes it really flexible based on like how you want to work. If you prefer longer days, shorter days, um, and stuff like that. So that is a big pro. Another pro in what we're talking about working in the field is travel therapy. So I love travel therapy so much. I'm a big proponent of travel therapy. I think that everybody should do it at least once, especially if you love traveling. Right now, I feel like you just have to be intentional about the places you go to because housing prices are getting so ridiculous. But if you're able to connect with a good recruiter, and you don't need to work with one recruiter, I one time I was working with 4 or 5 recruiters to check the vibe in a city, in a state, like see what different jobs that they have. Um, and basically decide where I want to work and stuff like that. I think that's where you can make the most money because most of the money that you make will be at stipends. Um, so like as long as you follow all the IRS rule and stuff like that, and I can go over that in another video if people are interested. But I think that's like that would be my first like advice to someone. If you love traveling and you want to become a speech therapist, without a doubt I would recommend travel therapy. And nowadays, as long as you're open to, I feel like if you want to work with kids, doing travel therapy for your CF in a school setting with like, I know some companies like AMN has really good like counsel advising and stuff like that, and they can find you a mentor and whatnot and supervisor. So doing it, if you know you want to work with kids, I think that's even better. I don't see why you wouldn't do that. If you want though to be in like inpatient rehab or acute care setting, I would still say, unless you're really vetted, like the place that you're going to, the supervisor that they're going to stay there the whole 9 months that you need to do your CF and stuff like that. Like you need to really be careful for that. For the medical setting, I would recommend to still do a CF as a full-time position and then go into travel therapy afterward if you want to focus mainly on the medical field. But yeah, overall, I think travel therapy is a big pro. So I would always advise somebody to do that if they're interested for traveling. So The work, what hasn't changed? So the work is very meaningful. You get to work directly with people, either with people when they're the most at the most vulnerable state. If they've just had a stroke, if they cannot communicate, you get to help them, like kind of like directly address their basic wants and needs. And if you're doing swallowing, literally helping somebody like potentially eat again and stuff like that, like those are really impactful. So it can be a very rewarding work, but at the same vein, like I was saying, the same way you get to work with people you at the most vulnerable state, it can be very draining as well. So you just have to keep that in mind. I feel like burnout is so common in our field, and also because unfortunately in our healthcare system, um, productivity is kind of like the name of the game right now. So productivity, for those of you who don't know, it's when you're required to either see a certain number of patients during your work day, or to bill a certain amount in your work day. So that can really drain you. You feel like you just kind of like don't really have time to connect with patients, and you're just working every day over and over again, and it gets really tiring. Or if you're in a very high stressful work environment, that can also do it as well. And the medical field can be like that. It can be very stressful. You can not everybody you work with, we're not miracle workers. Not everybody you work with are going to magically recover. Some of them might take longer, some of them might never recover some of the functions. So it can get very draining. So I feel like getting taking the time to work on your mental health, and take the day off if you need to, take the time off if you need to, which is another pro for travel therapy. You can like work when you want to and stop working when you don't want to, and just as long as you're good at your savings and stuff, you can take the time to reheal, to basically to rest before you are asked to give your all again to other people. So that's it. Let's see. What do I need to talk about? Um, so what has changed? So we're getting some of the cons here. So like I was saying, the productivity is a big con for me. I think, and hopefully, if you are in grad school and watching this video, I hope that you've been thought about like unreasonable productivity hours requirements, productivity percentage requirements, because they're getting really, really ridiculously crazy. Um, but if you have not, that is something to keep in mind. It's just the high stress, right? Another thing is the pay. So one of the reason why I keep pushing for travel therapy so much is because honestly, that is like the most well balanced pay wise for what we do and how much we give and how many resources we have to pour into when we do therapy, versus if you go to a full-time position, especially in some states like Florida, for example. Florida does not want to pay its healthcare workers in general. So it's just kind of like you fighting tooth and nails. I feel like to be able to afford the community that you're serving, to be able to afford to live where you're working, and full-time positions are very, like they don't want to pay you. Like I can't put it any nicer. They don't want to pay you. They they will, I feel like, gaslight you into getting um pay much lower than you are worth, or much lower than you need to be able to afford to live in the area, versus how much schooling is required. Like school isn't cheap, a master's degree isn't cheap, and the licenses, oh my god, the licenses are not cheap. Since like I was saying, I do travel therapy, I just had to renew my licenses. um I have two state licenses, my ASHA license, and I think in total it cost me about $600 in total to renew my licenses. that includes unit malpractice insurance for travel therapy. A lot of companies require you to have that, so it's expensive. It's really expensive. And with ASHA certifications, it's that's another, I think it was $225 per year. Anyway, it's just expensive. Um, so the pay isn't, in certain state, I feel like the pay is even decreasing, but the cost of living kept increasing, and the pay isn't adjusted with that, and the amount of work that we are required to do keep increasing. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. So just keep in mind when you go in the field, look into your state if you are particular about where you want to stay, and look at the salary, because that's, at the end of the day, that's just real. Like, you need to be able to afford to have a roof over your head. So and if that is your passion and you want to work at that job full time and you don't have any other source of income, I would really think about either doing travel therapy or relocating to a better paying state. So there's that. um so, like I was saying, burnout is another con. So that tends to happen again because of productivity requirements, because of the high level of stress and everything. So that tends to be very common in the field, and a lot of people are either leaving or just very um, dissatisfied with their life as speech language pathologists. And again, I don't blame them. It's just kind of like you need to weigh those pros and cons. Um, and documentation is another, it can be another burden. On one hand, I understand we need to document, we need to um, basically to keep track of how our patients are doing, to track our goals and stuff like that. But I feel like in some places, documentation is getting ridiculous, especially when you pair it with productivity requirements. It's just too much at one point. It's just like it's impossible to do in an 8-hour day, and they just expect you to get it done anyway. So again, make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense. So um so this is, I feel like a lot of people love the idea of the profession rather than, like, when you get to know the day to day. And like I was saying, it's not every day the impact. Yes, you make impact into people's life. People are so grateful, people are so nice most of the time, but that is not always the case. And not everybody is going to be happy, which makes sense. Again, you see them when they're vulnerable, when there might be like um angry, frustrated with what's going on with their bodies. So it's not always a walk in the park or even pleasant to interact with people, or other providers in other providers in that case. But it's just kind of like the day to day is a lot more repetitive than I feel like people talk about. It's very grindy, repetitive in a lot of cases. Um, in some settings, you can escape this. Like if you work in the acute care setting, in the ICU, ED, things like that. Like you cover enough variety of cases where it doesn't feel like the same thing every day. But in settings like skilled nursing facilities are a big example of that. It gets very boring very fast. And then if you're seeing you're going to work every day, Monday to Friday, you're expected to see like 12 people a day, and you're doing the same thing over and over again, and the progress is either really slow or sometimes non-existent, and you're having to kind of figure out what to do and stuff like that. Like it just get very repetitive and boring and draining. So um another thing is that, while I feel like another some things I think people can be dishonest about is the amount of autonomy we have with our plan of care. Basically, how you choose to see somebody, how long you choose to see them for. Girl, those are all dictated by insurance. 99% of the time. Like, you can make a plan of care to be like, I want to see this person 4 times a week for 3 weeks, and then I want to do an instrumental study. Let's think of swallowing, and then insurance can be like, we are not paying for that, especially if you're like in skilled nursing or even some outpatient, and the insurance can be like, nope, after 2 weeks this person is done with therapy, we're not paying for it anymore. And then that's it. Like, the insurance is king, basically. You Some people can appeal. Some of them you might get approved, you might not. And most people don't have the money to be paying out of pocket for our services. So yeah, yeah. So that's another thing to think about. So now let's go back. I feel like that was a lot of negativity, and it's a new year, right? I want this video to be as informative as possible. So let's say if I were 18, 19, thinking about what to study again, undergrad, I would not major in speech language pathology. I would major in something like linguistic. I keep saying linguistic because I love linguistics so much, but linguistics, psychology, education, English, something different, something that you have options, right? Um, and then would I still get my master's in speech language pathologies? I think I do not regret getting my master's in to become an SLP. I think it was a neat branch from linguistic, like to apply it into like day to day, um like having impact, interacting with another person like that. I think it's really valuable and it's much needed work, and I find it truly interesting. So I do not particularly regret it. And I was able to go to a school that was pretty affordable, and I had pretty good mentors there, and I had great externships. So I enjoyed my time there, so I wouldn't think I regretted it. Like, and definitely because afterwards I chose to opt into travel therapy as well. I feel like that really helped me with not noticing the pay discrepancy right away. So since I love traveling, like I've always, and when I say love traveling, not just like a week or two out of the year you go travel and you enjoy it, but like I love being on the road. I love being nomadic and just packing my stuff and go. I think that travel therapy was like, it's the best of both worlds. I get to make money, I get to meet people, I get to still interact with other people, learn and do my job, and I get to sightsee. So it was everything in one package. Still has cons, don't get me wrong, and that's for another video. It still has its own cons, like finding temporary housing, people not wanting to return your deposit for housing. Um, so it still comes with a con, but overall, I feel like the pros definitely, definitely outweigh the cons in that. Um, so because of that, I feel like the field reward flexibility. The field is very flexible, so I would give it that. In the future, though, especially if you're someone that wants to work full time and wants to be able to afford to live in a nice area and stuff like that, I honestly don't think I weigh your options. Look into everything. Can you be something else in the field without being an SLP? I don't know. I feel like, especially if you live in one of those, like if you live in Florida or something, like a state that doesn't want to pay you well, maybe if you're in Texas or California, you'll be okay, even though California has higher cost of living, but the pay for, at least for SLPs, tend to be much more reasonable as long as you're out of LA. I don't know what's going on with LA pay, but all the other cities, the pay was very reasonable. So I think you can look at it that way. But again, it's just the way the system is structured, the productivity, the insurance and stuff like that. I feel like healthcare in general is just so, just keep in mind, and keep your mental state in mind, because burnout is so rampant in the healthcare system that I feel like it's gonna have to get addressed sooner rather than later. But yeah. um so another pro, let's land on a pro since we talk about so many cons, is that talking about flexibility is you can do your own thing with speech therapy, right? You do not have to stay and work in one of those settings with an employer. You can have your own mobile fees. So you can do your own company to go to do home health therapy. You can work with kids on your own and reach out to family and build your own network that way. You can do like me, that I'm trying to create a business now, started a business with to offer services to other speech therapists. So you can do a lot of things in the field without having to be a full-time um, employee. And the good thing is, while you're doing that, you can still choose to work PRN. So on when you're available on a needed basis, to if that can help cover some bills while you try to pursue your business. So I think that's really worth it. That's kind of like what I'm doing right now. So I think for that flexibility, that is a big pro for the field. So um who is SLP worth it for? Who is it for in 2026? So again, if it's something that's really connected, like if you used to work with a speech therapist as a child, and it's something that is your passion, that is something you want to pursue, I do not regret it. I would say you can still do it. Just go with all the facts that you need to know. Just know what to expect and know basically to prepare for those eventualities. So maybe you might need to relocate in order to um, be able to be a speech therapist and have a healthy income and save and do all those stuff. You might need to start exploring the settings. Start You can volunteer in some settings. You can see, like, if you like working with kids, if you want to stay in the medical field, if you want to do your own thing, you can reach out to like private practice owners and see what their experiences are like, how they got started and everything like that. So I think that, and if you value direct human connection daily, I think that this can be a potential field for you. I really do. But if you want something that is like a high paying job in the healthcare field, well, this definitely not for, like, not a ridiculous amount of studying time like the physicians. I don't know if speech therapy is the right one for you, honestly. So I would say keep looking if that is the case. Um, and you just need to keep in mind, like, think about it, reach out and talk to people. Feel free to reach out to me. Put a comment down below and I'll answer them as best as I can. Send me a DM and I'll answer them as best as I can, and I'll provide example if that helps you. So yeah, that's about it. Like I said, I don't regret becoming an SLP. I think it can be a worthy pursuit if you have all the facts, if you know what you're getting into, and if you into traveling and can do travel therapy. I definitely think it'll be a good thing to venture into. If stability, high income, high earning, and like low stress level are your priority, I would reconsider and just explore more, or really think about what your priorities are in that case. But other than that, yeah, that's it. Oh, I was about to forget. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And watch my other videos if you're curious. If I've posted a video your home state, what about the requirements to either renew your license or get a license. I'm posting those now, how to obtain your license in some of those states. And if there's a state that you want me to take a look at first, let me know down below, and I'll post that video for you about that. All right.